Hello students, I am Sanab KB from Department of Physics of RBNB College Rampur, District Ahmednagar. Now, today we are going to study the topic number 15, structure of atoms and nucleus. In first part of this topic, you studied that different atomic models that are explained by that scientist, that is Thomson's atomic model, again that J.J. Thomson's atomic model, Rutherford's model, and so on. And you know that atom is the smallest particle of matter which further division is impossible. That is called the atom. And you know the structure of atom. There is a centrally nucleus which having positive charge and negatively charged electrons revolve around it. And there are some difficulties in that explained models, that is in Rutherford's atomic model, and he stated that whole mass of that atom is concentrated in the nucleus. That is correct, but when these electrons revolve in circular orbit, at that time they radiates energy, and this is not done. That energy is not radiated when these electrons revolve in circular orbit. When this happens, that atoms become spiral model, and lastly that structure of atom collapse. And so the next scientist, Niels Bohr, he gives his atomic model taking some assumptions which are known as Bohr's postulate. And now today we are going to study the article number 15.6, Bohr's atomic model. And he explains that electron revolve in a circular orbit around the nucleus like a planet revolve around a sun. And for a detail explaining the atomic model, he assumed some assumptions that are known as the Bohr's postulates, and see one by one there are three postulates. See first postulate number 1. The electrons revolves around a nucleus in a circular orbit. The sufficient centripetal force is provided by electrostatics force of attraction between positively charged nucleus and negatively charged electrons and negatively charged electrons. This is a first postulate. Now here we explain this Bohr's first postulates. Means here is the nucleus. We take the particular example for that helium atom, and now this is the orbit of that electron. This electron of charge E, and R with the radius of that orbit. This is a positively charged nucleus, and this is the electron here. Now this postulate states that electron revolve in circular orbit. Why? The sufficient centripetal force is provided by electrostatic force of attraction between positively charged nucleus and negatively charged electron. That is, here we write that centripetal force is equal to electrostatic force. Electrostatic force. Here we write that mv square by r is equal to that 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 that z e square by r square. Here m with the mass of electron, phi is a linear velocity of this electron which is revolve in a circular orbit of this radius r, and now this centripetal force mv square by r is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 z e square by r square. Already we obtained this expression for that electrostatic force from Coulomb's law in electrostatics in a previous class. Now here epsilon 0 is the permittivity of a vacuum or that free space, and z be the atomic number. And now this is the mathematical statement of this Bohr's first postulate. This is equation number 1. Now we can explain the second postulate, that is the postulate number 2, or here we write postulate 2. What is the statement of that second postulate? That the radius of orbit of an electron of an orbit of an electron can only take certain fixed value, can only take certain value such that certain value such that angular momentum of electron is equals to integral multiple of h upon 2 pi, where h is Planck's constant. H is Planck's constant. That is that angular momentum is equals to that nh upon 2 pi, where n is equal to that 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. This is an integer. And now we modify this one, that angular momentum, that will be mass into velocity, is equal to this nh upon 2 pi, that phi is equal to r omega is equals to this nh divided by 2 pi. This is the mathematical statement of Bohr's second postulate, that electrons revolve in that circular those orbits which angular momentum is equals to integral multiple of h upon 2 pi. Now here we get the angular momentum mv, and that nh upon 2 pi, where n is equal to that any integer 1, 2, 3, 4, and now phi is equal to r omega. We already studied this equation, that m r omega is equal to nh upon 2 pi. This is equation number 2. This is the Bohr's third postulate. Now we can see the postulate number 3. See the Bohr's third postulate. An electron can make a transmission. An electron can make a transmission from one orbit to another orbit, from one orbit to another orbit having lower energy, having lower energy. It emits photon of energy, means that electron emits photon of energy is equals to difference between energies of two orbits. This is the third postulate. Now we can explain here that explanation. This third postulate state that electron jumps from higher energy orbit to lower energy orbit, that is outer orbit to inner orbit. Here is the nucleus, this is the first orbit, second, and like this one. Now energy of this outer orbit is higher. At that time electrons jumps from higher orbit to inner orbit, that is a higher energy orbit to lower orbit. At that time it emits photon of energy which is equals to the difference between energies of two orbits. Suppose this is the outer is the mth orbit and here inner is the nth orbit, means that m is greater than n. And now at that time that energy of that photon is equal to difference between that two energies, that is the energy of that mth orbit, that energy of nth orbit, that is E is equal to Em minus En. This Em is the energy of that higher orbit, mth orbit, that is the outer orbit, minus energy of that nth orbit, that is the lower energy orbit. And now this energy is the energy of that photon, and you know the energy of photon is equal to that h mu is equal to Em minus En. This is the another statement of this Bohr's third postulate, where h is the Planck constant, mu be the frequency of that electron, and get the Em minus En. In this way we study here the three postulates of Bohr's theory, which gives the actual atomic model, particularly for a hydrogen atom. And now studying these three postulates, we get the next article here, that is article number 15.61. That is article 15.61, that radii of the orbits, radii of the orbits, means here we have to find radius of that orbit. Obtaining this expression for radius of Bohr's orbit, or radii of different orbits, with the help of that three postulates already we studied here. Now here we consider that hydrogen atom, here is the nucleus, and then electron revolve it with velocity v, and this r be the radius of this orbit, and this is the E be the charge on that electron, and here positive charge is there, that electrons revolve in a circular orbit. Already we assume that Bohr's first postulate, an electron revolve in circular orbit with uniform velocity in circular orbit. At that time, that sufficient centripetal force is provided by electrostatic force of attraction between positively charged nucleus and negatively charged electrons. And now we obtain that already mathematical statement of that Bohr's first postulate, that mv square r is equal to that electrostatic force, that is 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 z square divided by r square. Now here our simplicity, we consider that nth orbit here. This is the nth orbit. Then m be the mass of that electron in that nth orbit, v be the velocity of that electron in that nth orbit, and now here Rn be the radius of that nth orbit. Therefore this equation becomes like this one. And now we write this value of phi square. Here phi square is equal to this 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 z square, that Rn square, this into this Rn divided by m here. Now here this Rn cancels with this square, and now here we write that phi square is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0, that is z square divided by Rn into this m. This is here equation number 1 here. In this way we get the value of here phi square. This is from Bohr's first postulate. Then according to Bohr's postulate 2, that electron revolve in those orbits which angular momentum is equal to integral multiple of nh upon 2 phi. Already we studied here. And then equation becomes mathematical statement of this Bohr's second postulate, m phi r is equal to nh upon 2 pi, where that value of n is equal to 1, 2, 3 and so on. It is any integer. Now squaring this equation, squaring on both sides, that is m square phi square r square. Now here r with the radius of nth orbit, therefore Rn square is equal to n square, this h square divided by 4 pi square here. Okay, now write this equation for v square. This v square is equal to this n square h square divided by 4 pi square. Now here that m square multiply here, then here r n square. This is equation number 2. Now this is v square, here is again v square. Equating equation 1 and 2 we get here. Equating equations 1 and 2 we get that, right, equation 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0, that z square divided by Rn m is equals to this n square that n square h square divided by 4 pi square m square r n square. Now here cancels the common terms. This 4 cancels with this 4, this pi cancels with this square. Okay, now here this m cancels with this square, and this r cancels with this square. What is the remaining here? That z e square divided by this epsilon 0 is equals to this n square h square divided by this pi, then m is here, then r n here. Okay, now we write this equation for that r n directly. This value comes to here, or we write one more here, that r n z e square here divided by epsilon 0 is equal to this n square h square divided by pi m here. And now that r n is equal to, this value will be here epsilon 0 n square h square divided by pi m into this z e square here. This is the value of radius of that nth orbit here. That is r n is equal to epsilon 0 n square h square pi m z e square. This is the radius of nth orbit for that Bohr's orbit. And now make some arrangement, that Rn is equal to, in bracket, this epsilon 0, that n square divided by pi m e square this z into this n square here, epsilon 0 h square, where this epsilon 0 permittivity of free space, that Planck's constant h, this term pi, this mass of electron, charge on electron e, and now z are here constant, and therefore this epsilon 0 h square pi m e square z is equal to constant, and therefore that radius r n is directly proportional to n square. Means radius of Bohr's orbit is directly proportional to square of principal quantum number. As radius increases, as n increases, means orbit number increases, then radius also increases. And now in this way we easily prove that radius of Bohr's orbit is directly proportional to square of principal quantum number. And now here put this value of that z is equal to 1 for hydrogen atom, atomic number here, and n is equal to 1, that first orbit. That equation becomes this r1 is equal to that epsilon 0 h square divided by phi me raised to 2. This is the value of first orbit, that is a lower orbit, which is denoted by a0. For first orbit, n is equal to 1, z is equal to 1, then r1 is equal to epsilon 0 h square pi me square, that will be denoted as a0 there, and then we write that equation for hydrogen atom, that radius of nth orbit is equal to a0 n square. a0 is square, that a0 is the value for that first orbit. And now in this way we can easily explain the three postulates of Bohr's theory: postulate 1, postulate 2 and postulate 3. Now according to that postulate number 1 and postulate number 2, we can easily obtain the expression for radius of Bohr's nth orbit, and it is also clear that as number of orbit increases, then radius of that orbits also increases, that is Rn is directly proportional to n square, that is radius of Bohr's orbit is directly proportional to square of principal quantum number. And now we can stop here. Okay.